Observant day to all of you amazing souls joining here us today. Welcome to Lead with Intention, where every single week I, your host, Ambereen Hameed, shows up here every single week to serve you. It's a truly an honor to have crossed paths with you today, and I want you to know that I am so incredibly appreciative for you taking the time out to prioritize yourself and for giving us the most important commodity, which is your time. Welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on your respective app stores, iOS, Android, Amazon, the full lineup, Roku, the full lineup, and even on Google Chromecast. While you are downloading this application, please remember to rate and review. This allows us to serve you better. Let us know what we're doing wonderful, but also what can be improved to make your experience even better. With that said, the most important thing is the app is completely free to your use. Zingo TV is available on any smart TV 2016 on forward. And today's guest is somebody who I actually crossed paths with, not in the most typical of ways. Sherri Cofelt is a results consultant who provides support based services to entrepreneurs to attract high quality clients. She's a trainer and international speaker who wants to make her clients realize that they can finally live a life filled with freedom and have the flexibility to enjoy their bucket list right now as they take their business on the go. Welcome, Sherri, to our show.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful. All right. So we like to start the show off by asking you a very simple yet profound question. Tell us something about yourself. Who are you, Sherri?
Oh, goodness. Well, I have been, in this crazy world of coaching consulting for almost 24 years. I'm a world traveler. I am an avid reader. What else can I tell you about myself? I love life and I love supporting entrepreneurs to create a life that allows them that freedom and flexibility to not only live the lifestyle that they want to live, but as you said, take their business with them.
Okay, you said something really profound to all of us, and I love to dive in a little bit deeper to those nuggets. And for anybody who's listening and watching, please make sure you have your paper and your notepad or notebook, whatever handy with you, so you can take down those notes and kind of be on this journey with us. You said you love to live life. What does that mean for you?
Mm. I think that there is such a tendency in our culture right now to accept the way things are and to not realize that we have the power to create our life with intention. We're here about intention, right? We have the power to create our life with intention. And
Mhm.
when we walk through the path of life through the lens of intentionality, it is amazing what we can create. But in order to do that, we have to start by getting clarity on what it is we want. And
Mhm.
that's what we've kind of lost the ability. We've lost the ability to dream. We've lost the ability to take the time out and actually take a step back and say to ourselves, what do I want my life to look like in a year, in 5 years, in 10
Mhm.
years? What do I really want to do when I wake up in the morning that not only fills me up, but also makes an impact in the world, gives back, and makes us happy?
Yes. That happiness portion is something I feel that we're all striving for. And one of the most simple and the most profound things my son said, I would say about 5, 6 years ago, he's only like 10 years old. He said, happiness, I mean, you just be.
Yeah. I have a t-shirt that says choose happiness. And it's true.
Yeah.
It is true. We are the creator of our circumstances, and we get to live with, in a sense, those circumstances, be them good or not so good.
Yeah. So you just said something to us, I think that that our audience members here will really benefit from. It's a very simple way that you put it, like we are the creators of our circumstances. For somebody who doesn't really want to accept that viewpoint, how could you maybe help them shift that perspective a little bit, Sherry?
Oh, well, it is a shift, and I get that. It starts with recognizing that every action causes a reaction. And one of the things that I learned long ago, I did some training in neurolinguistic programming, and one of the big things that we talked about is that Our beliefs cause our emotions cause our actions, and our actions cause our results. And that's what I mean, really, when we are the creators of our circumstances, because the beliefs, those beliefs that belong to, again, those beliefs that serve us and those beliefs that don't, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them serve us, then that creates our emotions and how we look at the world and our perceptions about what is reality. And that those emotions and those feelings that we have cause what we choose to do, our actions. And the actions we take, of course, create our results because we're responsible for every action we take. I think most people would agree with that. And granted, there are things that happen to us in life that we say, well, I can't stop the world from turning, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you can not change. Change is the wrong word. You can intentionally choose how you react to it, how you
Mm, okay,
respond to
well,
it. I like the word respond actually better than react, because reaction is something that's involuntary. That something, you touch your hand on a frying pan and you automatically pull it away. That's a reaction. A response is something that we decide, an action we decide we're going to take. That
mm,
makes
it makes complete sense. It's wonderful that you're saying that. Was talking to my huddle of youth that I work with, especially in a mentorship circle, and we were talking about this. One of the kids was like, "Yeah, my four people started yelling at me because I dropped the milk while I was holding my sister, and they all knew I made a mistake, but they were all yelling at me, and then it made me feel so bad about myself. I felt
sense.
blameworthy and shameful, and even though I
Right.
was cleaning up, and nothing was stopping them, right?" And so we talked about this, like this automatic this automatic reaction which we don't
Hmm.
really think through.
Hmm.
And so at the end of it they were like, that makes so much more sense. Let's say that there's a person who is listening here today, actually watching here, not just listening, but actually fully present and saying, okay, well, maybe Sherry's the person that can help me today. Maybe her viewpoint in her life will teach me something. And they are putting in the action consistently and they're not seeing the results.
Hmm.
What can they do?
Keep going. I think at the end of the day, that's what we can all do. We get up in the morning and we decide, am I going to take the actions today that move me forward, or am I going to slip back into old patterns, old beliefs?
Mm,
And which actually brings up another thing that they can do is check in on what am I making up right now about what's happening. So, the boy that was being yelled at, he was making up that his friends thought that he was whatever, clumsy, he was stupid, whatever he was making up. Was
mm-hmm.
that truth? Maybe, but just as likely not truth. It could have been they were, I'm going to assume, teenage boys that were just messing around and were making it a joke, and they didn't think any of those things that he was thinking about himself, because he was reflecting back what he believed in that moment about himself. And that is a mistake that so many of us make, is that we make up our reality. And I had
Mm,
a coach at one point. This has been a long time ago. It was when I was doing my NLP training, actually. And he always used to say, we make it all up anyway. So why not make it up the way we want it to be versus the way we don't?
mm,
So if that boy had made up
mm,
that, oh well, they're just having fun with me, and they're just making a joke out of this whole thing, then his response to that situation would have been different than what he was making up and saying, they were making fun of me, they were laughing at me, they thought I was clumsy. Those kinds of things that were those negative emotions that he was bringing up were causing the actions that he was taking, which was to feel bad about himself, right? Well, when you feel
yeah.
bad about yourself, what are the results that you create? They're usually not the results we want to create, right? So you have to go back to the belief, because that's where it all starts.
Yeah, my notes I just wrote down beliefs versus facts, right? The fact of the matter
Oh,
is, yes,
absolutely. Yep.
the milk fell down, but the belief doesn't have to be that he's clumsy, that he did it on
Yep.
purpose, or that he's not owning his own mistake. So I love that little reframe. And I think,
Yeah.
for every single person here who is listening and watching and really trying to understand how you can become a better version of you, really understands it's as simple as it all starts with our beliefs, and we
Absolutely.
we have full control over that. Nobody even knows what we're thinking, what we're imagining, what we're perceiving life to be. So why not make it a beautiful journey, and
Right.
like Sherry said, love the life that you live.
Yeah, everything about it, because we learn as much from our mistakes as we do from our successes. Actually, more from our mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, mistakes is maybe the wrong word to use. We learn from our results, both positive results we wanted and not so positive results we didn't, right? And we learn more from the results that we aren't happy about in life typically than the ones that we are. So, I tell my clients all the time, there's no such thing as a failure. There's only results. And the results that you get if you're a business owner like I am, the results you get in your business aren't a reflection of who you are. They're a reflection of the actions that you took and the results that they created. So
Mm.
it's not, what's that phrase? It's not personal, it's business. Well, I guess that's maybe a weird way to use that phrase, but in a sense, it is. It's not like when you do a launch, if you do a business launch and you don't get the results that you want, you don't get as many people to sign up for your workshop or your program or whatever it might be. It's not because those people didn't like you or took some negative interest in you, so to speak. So they said, "Oh no, I'm not going to Sherri's workshop."
Mm.
It was about them. It was about their decision, their beliefs that drove their emotions about your workshop, that drove their action. Did they sign up or not? And that becoming the result. So again, 90% of what happens to us in life is not about us as much as we would like to believe it is. It's about the other person.
Mm. Okay. So then if 90% is not about us and only 10% is, what consists of that 10%, Sherry?
That what we control, because the things that other people, when I said that, I meant 90% of what happens, what we perceive about other people isn't about us. Not 90% of
Mm.
our results aren't about us. Okay, so do you see
Yeah,
this distinction?
of
So
course.
how someone responds isn't about us, it's about them. The actions that we took, the beliefs that we led to our emotions, that led to our actions, that led to our results, those are all about us. And only
Okay.
we control those.
So the right way, I just for everybody here, just to get more clarity, is 90% of the responses are not about us, and 10% of them are about us because that's what we can truly control. I think it is
Yeah,
important in the world that we live in right now, where we feel like we want everyone to accept our viewpoints and accept who we are, and
yeah,
like just love us and like us. We kind of start to lose most of who we are because we're so zoomed in on that 90%
we
versus
do.
control that belief, control that thought process, and really
Mhm.
create the life through actions that you want. Now, let's get into a little bit. You've spoken about this, already 3 or 4 times. What does it mean for you to live an intentional life, Sherry?
Mm. So intention, another great word, right? Um, to live an intentional life goes back to what I said earlier about getting clear on what it is I want and making decisions in my life from that point of view, from that intention. So when I set an intention, I do a process I call the Freedom Finder formula, where I create a vision for my life a year from now. Typically, I do it in the fall. I really let myself dream, and I also let myself feel the feelings about where I am right now versus where I want to be, and get really clear on a year from then, at the end of the next year, calendar year, let's say, what do I want to have happening in my life? And then once I get clarity on that, and I mean my whole life, I don't mean my business. I talk about my business all the time because it's a big part of my life. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean what do you want your business to like and how many clients that you want to have. Yes, that's important too. But what I really mean is, what do I get up in the morning every day and do? Where am I living? Who am I spending my time with? How am I feeling about life? What's exciting me? What am I
Mm-hmm.
enjoying? What are the new things that I'm going to try? How am I going to learn? All of those things that make life enjoyable, getting some clarity around what it is that we want to create for ourselves in the next year. Once I do that, I can be intentional about the actions that I take. So now I can create a belief system, obviously, that I believe that I can create whatever life it is I want to have. So that's going to drive my emotions, whether it's commitment, whether it's excitement, whether it's all those emotions. The positive, I create the positive emotions around that. So that
Mhm.
leads me towards taking the actions that are going to get me there. And the other thing that it does is it gives you permission to say no. Okay, so uh, I'll share the story of, for me. Um, I use this vision process. I do it every year for myself, and I do it with every one of my clients. That's where I start with before we ever talk business at all, is starting with what their vision is. And for myself, several years prior to the pandemic, I was going
Mhm.
through this process, and I had what I call one of those knock upside the head moments when I realized that I had a perfectly fine life. I was happy, healthy. I had a very successful business. Everything from the outside looked really good. But
Mhm.
I realized as I was writing my vision letter, which is part of my process that year, that once again, I was writing about someday I want to travel full time.
Mm.
And the knock upside the head moment was the realization that, I'm doing exactly what I tell my clients to avoid, which is living in the someday. Because there's always a someday. And it's like saying next week. I call it next weeking yourself to death. There's always a next week. There's always a someday. And what had happened was that I had unintentionally, it had been one of those unconscious things that had
Mhm.
happened. I had gotten myself to a place in my business that I was reliant on going to live networking events, going to speaking at a ton of events across California. I was living in California at the time. That's where my clients came from. So I couldn't leave and go to Europe for 3 months because if I did, my leads would dry up.
Mm.
And that knock upside the head moment was a big one for me because I felt so out of integrity. Here I was teaching my clients live from intention and get clear on your vision for your life so you can create the life you want. And here I had subconsciously got myself to a place that my business was holding me back at that point from creating the life I wanted. Not to mention the big house in California and the whole lifestyle that I was living. Which, don't get me wrong, I loved my lifestyle in California too. But that was the day that I put the stake in the ground and I said, okay, no more. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I
Mm.
made the decision, no, my intention is to live a life where I get to travel as much as I possibly want to travel and be able to take my business with me while I'm doing it. So within 6 months, I had put my house on the market, sold it, had completely revamped the marketing in my business so that I went from mostly those live events, those live networking events and live speaking events. I had a virtual element to my business, but it wasn't my focus. Took it
Mhm.
completely virtual or almost completely virtual and was off for 4 months in Australia. And I
Yay.
never looked back. Yeah, yeah, and I never looked back. And life happened.
Mm.
Pandemic happened for one thing, so can't exactly travel. I was that time I was in New Zealand when the pandemic hit, and I was traveling about 9 months of the year internationally, taking my business with me. And so that was a pretty big wake up call. And the the universe told me this is your chance to concentrate on family. And during the
Mm.
pandemic, I had the gift of being able to spend a lot of time with my dad, who was ailing, had dementia, had COPD. He actually ended up passing away last July. And if the pandemic would not have happened, I don't know whether I would have had that gift or not. So, that's an example where there are things outside of our control. I mean, no one can say, you control the circumstances of the pandemic, but I did control the way I reacted to them.
Mhm.
And, instead of going into, excuse me, instead of going into what I can't do, I focused on what I could do, which
Yeah.
was use that time to be with family. My mom got cancer, supporting her through that. And, I had all kinds of family stuff. Life happened that the pandemic gave me the gift of me being able to spend the time with them. And And I do really see that as a gift. So now I'm back to traveling. Sorry, I went kind of into the not so good times during the pandemic, but it was a gift. And now, things have shifted and I'm back traveling again. I'm leaving on Saturday for some family travel and then going to Iceland and then Canada. And so, yeah, so I get to have both. I get to have the best of both worlds.
Well, you're describing my dream life here, Sherry, and I do want to take a moment and kind of just say that I know losing a father, regardless of how old they are and how old we
Yeah,
are, is something that's very difficult. But I am happy that in those last moments you were there and he knew and you
exactly.
could feel,
Exactly.
your presence. And alongside with, your mom kind of knowing that she needs your attention and she needs
True.
that
Yeah,
kind of bump
exactly.
back. A
Yeah.
lot of times I think emotionally we can support people, but there's something that happens when you physically show up in front of somebody
Oh, there
ready to
is.
serve.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
almost
Well,
like they heal faster, they
mhm,
get
yeah.
better.
Well,
Um,
and if I may share one of the other gifts in that whole experience, because there was the last year, basically, not quite that, I guess now, a little, I had to put my business, as very, very, very much a second priority.
mm,
And the gift for me in that was that I realized that the work that I had done in the previous, of course, I've been in business for 24 years, so I've been around a long time. But the work that I had done set me up so that I could do that. And things kept working. I had a system in place
mm,
that, the day-to-day stuff kept getting done, whether I was physically there or even emotionally there or not, so that when things started lightening up and things kind of got back to the new version of normal, that I could ramp up my business again. And that
mm.
was a gift too. Just to realize that that's why as a business coach, those of you that have had a business coach or hear business coaches and they're harping on systems and automation and planning, for God's sakes, that's why we do it. It's for those times that you don't expect, because that's what's going to get you through those times you didn't expect.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important to realize that there's so much support out there for us to kind of take life on the go, right? It could be
Yeah,
something as
yeah,
simple as just taking a quick note of a meeting that we have, instead of
right.
having to, physically write it down on a piece of paper. You could just take it on your phone. You can literally schedule it. It'll remind you. It'll tell you. And those simple moments and processes are so critical. One of my coaches also says like fundamentals are foundational. Like there's nothing that
Yes.
you can do. Those are a must. You have to have those down, which I think is such an essence of making, and
Yeah,
simplifying our life as the
right.
business grows and things like that. What's one personal thing you've shared a lot about
Mhm.
about yourself? What's one personal thing that you would like to share about yourself so we as a community, as a show can get to know
Mhm.
you a little bit better?
Oh my goodness, I've shared so much already. Let's see, what's a personal thing? Well, I grew up on a farm in Iowa. So I'm literally the Iowa farm girl that you have heard about. And it was awesome. Didn't necessarily want to live there my entire life, but still have lifelong friends from there. I have
Mm,
three girlfriends that I met, two in kindergarten and one in third grade, that I still go on an annual girlfriend's trip with them. And that to me, oh, bless you. Um, that to me
thank you.
is, again, one of the other greatest gifts is lifelong friends. And
Mm,
I'm so fortunate to have not only them, but other lifelong friends in my life. Um, and that's another thing that's intentional. We have to intentionally cherish and build and grow the relationships in our life. Because if
mm.
we don't, who's going to?
Yeah, I love that you said that. That's one of the biggest things that I focus on with my own clients is ability to pour in to see the results later, right? Like
Mhm.
we're saying,
Right.
oh, our kids don't listen, and you're like, well, do you listen? Like
Do you listen to
that's
them?
a good
Yep.
that's a good
Mhm.
place to start. Like you are the
Yeah,
role model,
exactly.
Oh, they don't communicate. Well, how often do you all put down your devices and just say this is family time,
Yeah,
30 minutes?
yeah,
Nobody
right.
moves until we've shared something, or these
Mhm.
small things that kind of are no
Yeah.
longer part of our lives. We don't really build on them. So
Mhm,
we really have
mhm.
no reason to cherish them. And we see them being stagnant, if not depleting, because they're not growing, because that
Yes.
intentionality is not there. Okay. And then can you share something with us about your family so we can allow to
Ooh,
get to know you and that dynamics a little bit better?
sure. So I already talked about my mom and my dad a little bit. My mom and stepdad live in Arizona, in Yuma, Arizona, near the New Mexico border. So I'm there right now, and it's 107 degrees. I think it's supposed to be today, 107. So it's nice and hot. And I'm so fortunate because and my parents divorced when I was 13, and my mom remarried when I was 19. My dad remarried when I was, I think, 17, and had my sister Carrie when I was 19. So I was a freshman in college with my only other child. I was an only child until then, when my only other sibling was born. And so that's a very, very special relationship because I'm almost like a second mom to her because she is 19 years younger than me.
Hmm.
And she has a 10-year-old nephew who I adore and spend as much time as possible with. I get to see him when I'm back in Iowa, and I'm taking him to see Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory at a children's theater that I love. And family is everything. And
Mm.
without the support of my mom and my dad and my step parents, I couldn't have done anything of what I did. My dad was a big driver in my life when it came to uh, really me believing that I could do anything I wanted to do. And he was a farmer and one of the smartest people that I knew, that I know now
Mhm.
even. And he did amazing things with his life, uh, and lifelong learner, and really was heavily into the stock market and things that you wouldn't expect from an Iowa farmer, right? Uh,
Yes.
but he went to Africa 7 times during his lifetime because he absolutely loved Africa. And yeah, and so I'm just very fortunate that I'm close to my family. My mom has two sisters, one of which had 6 kids, so I have tons of cousins, and yeah, so the family is everything.
You're saying my words. Family is everything. I think is the
Sure.
most foundational unit that we really have, and one that we actually don't appreciate as much as we should. Now,
Oh,
you talked a
isn't
little
that
bit about almost like I see you as a reflection of your father, just from this conversation that you just mentioned today.
mhm,
Is he was somebody who was a lifelong learner, very intentional, had a belief, did things that were out of
right.
the ordinary. Life, like what do you think made him become that person living in Iowa, with his farming family?
Yeah. I think my grandmother's another very important figure in my life. His mom. She
Mm.
was a school teacher. She literally taught in the one-room schoolroom when she was first starting to teach. And she believed that you can do anything, that you can be, do, and have anything that you want in your life.
Yeah.
Again, there's that intention again, as long as you set the intention and take steps to get there. She definitely instilled in my dad the lifelong learning, uh, a desire. And then, of course, she did in me as well because she was a big factor in my life. She passed away when I was early 20s. No, I was actually older than that. Anyway, doesn't matter. But
Mhm.
she was a big factor in my life, as well as my dad's life. And so I think it's having people there in your corner, and finding, and if you don't have that in your immediate family, finding people who will be that for you. Because I'm fortunate. I had two sets of parents until my stepmother passed away in June of 2020. So until I was decades old, I would say that, go how far I am, but decades old, I had four parents. Not everybody has that, and I am grateful for that every day. If you don't have that, find those relationships, create those relationships that give you those 2 a.m. friends, those people
Mm.
that you can call no matter what, and they're going to be there for you, because that's everybody gets to have that.
Yeah. Everybody deserves to have that. I think,
Absolutely.
I really want to kind of go back a little bit, backtrack to get to the present moment. And you mentioned when you were 13 years old, your parents, divorced.
Mhm.
Now, mostly that's a very critical age. I'm thinking about that, in my own family, my own kids, and kind of where they are right now.
Yeah.
And you tell the story of that kind of being a gift and having now
Mm,
four parents, not two, but two sets of parents.
right.
How did, for the people who are here, who are viewing and and listening and learning and really are understanding. Well, I know a best friend of mine who's going through a divorce and her kids around this age, or I myself am facing a lot of challenges and I don't know where life is going to take me with my marriage. How do you help parents and even kids shift that mindset to say that whatever happens is happening for us, not to us?
Mm, yeah. Well, yes, it was a very difficult age, and it was a different time too. Now, in small town Iowa, divorce wasn't as common, quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And so, I think I'm not sure I have a good answer to that other than love them, let them, give them the space to share their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
um, ask how they're feeling. I know that was something my dad and my mom did. They stayed very close to me and, checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Share with them how you're feeling because, it's kind of, it can be for a lot of people, at least a tough time out there.
Yeah.
And not that you're going to go into the quote unquote gory details about maybe the challenges that you're having, but having your kids understand that it's okay to be human. It's okay to,
Mm.
not feel hopeful today because tomorrow's another day. And being that person that's willing to share their feelings is going to show them, it's your actions again are going to show them that it's okay for them to feel the way that they feel too.
Yeah, I think being vulnerable is such a
Yeah,
courageous thing to do.
it is.
But
It is.
and quite often I think as parents we feel like we have to put a shield up, like a guard up, where the
Yep.
kids can't see those true feelings.
Right.
And it is kind of a disservice to the kids and even to the other family members because they think you're always so well put together. Like
Yep.
there's nothing bothers. So when they grow up, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, I'm
Right.
feeling so sad and so down and so weak.
Yeah.
I'm not a strong person because my mom never felt this way or showed it, this way."
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Exactly.
my dad, not even just my mom. I keep saying
Yeah.
moms. We have
Right.
two ladies here, but that's not the intention at all.
Right. Right.
I think it's really important. And now let's say you mentioned, you're blessed like I am. You have a herd of family members that you have people that you can call and reach out to at 2 a.m. And you did say try to find those people who are gonna kind of be your group, your cheer squad
Mhm.
is what I
Right.
call it.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
And for somebody who's like, yeah, Sherry, that's really nice. You've been working for 24 years. You live in California. You do live events. You do this. You do that. You travel the world. You are saying it so easily. It's not that easy to find the right people who are going to lift me up.
Hmm.
So let's dive in there and kind of
Yeah.
help people figure out. It doesn't have to be so complex.
Yeah. Put yourself in situations that surround you with those kind of people you want to be with. That's a big thing. It's you. They're not going to come knocking on your door. And so whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, put yourself in situations where people you have something in common with will be. Now, for a lot of people, that's church, perhaps. It can be community groups. It can be working with a charitable organization. Um, it can be in your business networking. Some of my best friends, some of my 2 a.m. friends, I've met through business events, and we've
Mm,
developed relationships over the years that turn into not just business acquaintances but true friendships, and people I know I can count on.
mm,
Give to get, I think, is another thing. You have to go into any relationship, first being willing to give. Not only, I don't mean give things, I mean give of yourself, and
yeah.
let people, that vulnerability that you mentioned earlier, let that vulnerability come out. Be willing to show people who you really are, and be not holding that back, but be loud and proud about who you are, because there's only one you, and the
Hmm.
world the world is lucky to have you, just as you are. So I think those would be the things that it's like meeting new friends is not easy. Um, I tend to be, I am definitely introverted. People are amazed at that sometimes, but I'm very introverted. And so I don't need a huge group of friends. I tend to have a smaller community that I'm really, really close with, and then I have a lot of connections. I know a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, um, and I tend to be more comfortable with, in a smaller group typically. Uh, but until you give yourself permission to be open to those people that you come into contact with, you're going to be sending the signals that you don't want the contact,
Yeah.
and you have to be aware of that. It's like, that's, we talked about intentionality, obviously that's the whole podcast. um, that you have to be intentional. If you set the intention that I'm going to meet 3 people in the next 30 days that are people I want to have in my life long term, and every day you wake up and say, okay, what actions am I going to take today to make that happen? Because you see, that's
Mm.
the whole problem. Do you remember The Secret? This was years ago, but it was the
Yes.
secret was all about, you can have anything you want. You just have to be clear on the vision. And
Mm-hmm.
what people didn't hear is that didn't mean that you didn't have to take any actions to create that intent, to create that outcome.
Of
Because remember,
course.
it's our actions that causes our results. So people watched the Secret, and they said, okay, I want to be a millionaire. I am a millionaire. That's one of the things, is act as if. Okay, I am a millionaire. And every day they'd get up and they'd say, I am a millionaire. And they took zero
Mm-hmm.
action. So did they become a millionaire? Highly unlikely. So what are the actions that I'm going to take today to create the people around me, to attract the people that I want to be around me, to give me those 2 a.m. friends? And just take that
Mm.
step. Maybe it's going to Starbucks and setting the intention that I'm going to, start a conversation with 3 people.
I
Have you ever,
totally agree. I think it's. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, have you ever been in line at the grocery store and just said, you know what, I'm going to see who I can talk to? That's amazing.
That's what I think a lot of people they let the labels kind of stop them from proceeding. Like, I'm an introvert. An introvert is not supposed to talk to people because I'm not comfortable in it, but I won't do it.
Yeah.
And just recently, literally this week, I came back, with my kids. I went on a cruise, our first time ever. And by the end of it, it was hilarious. We're like in the exit line. My son is like, "Hey, mom, just stop interviewing people. Okay, you don't have to know their whole life story, mom. Just stop it." And I was like, "Hey, cruises are all about experiences. I
Yeah.
can have the ones that they have on the actual calendar, or I can create my own." And I would say the ones I created on my own are gonna stick with me because there
Yeah.
was intentionality. There was a lot of giving of myself to really get that connection. I came
Yes.
out with, 2 or 3 people. My kids found 3 mentors. All of them have a mentor now that they found
That is
because
great.
of an action I took, and I
Mhm.
decided to get the kids involved in that action. Now,
Yes.
you talked a little bit about, kind of letting I call it like elevation of frequency. In my head, that's the way I
Mhm.
think about it, is allowing ourselves to say, I'm open and receiving to the things that I want.
Yes.
And being aware of it, something that you mentioned, is really important. How
Mhm.
does somebody who's been living a very superficial life or unaware life or a mundane life, where do they start? How do they start to really just even understand and become aware of those patterns of, I
Mhm.
want to be a millionaire, I'm not putting any time and effort, and is that going to give me the results?
Yeah. Well, there's another phrase that I use a lot. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and
Mm-hmm.
once you recognize it, you can deal with it. So
Okay.
the first step is getting honest with yourself and realizing where your what are the limiting beliefs you're making up. First of all, as been talking all the time, um, that are holding you back from what you truly want, and what is it you truly want. So really giving yourself permission to be honest with yourself, that's where it all starts. And once you start getting clarity on that, then it's all about taking intentional action. And I'm a big one on the rule of three. There's been a lot of research done around brain, how our brains work, and I'm fascinated by the brain. And one of the things is that our brain works best when it has three groups of three things. So give your kids three choices on what they can have for dinner tonight, or three offerings in your business that you
Mm.
sell to people. So do the same thing. What are three things that I can do? What are three next steps I can take? Whatever they are, they can be gargantuan or they can be small. And it's better if they're
Mm.
small when you're starting out. And take those three steps. And then what are the next three steps? And it's that, I feel like I'm coming up with all these cliches today that eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's so true though. Uh, when you think about a goal, I want to be a millionaire. That's a pretty huge goal for a lot of people. Is it going to happen overnight? Unless you win the lottery, not likely. So there are steps that have to be taken to create the foundation that give you the steps that you need to take in order to create the wealth, to grow the wealth, to scale the business or whatever it might be. There's a whole series of steps. And when you keep thinking about it, well, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be a millionaire, it can get very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it from the standpoint of, okay, I want to be a millionaire, what are the three steps I can take today that are going to move me towards that? Is it
Yeah.
learning something new? Is it, meeting your next mentor? Is it whatever? What is it? And then start taking steps towards that. And will be amazed how quickly you can actually get some traction. And momentum breeds momentum. And once you start getting into momentum, then momentum is
Mm.
going to start naturally happening.
Yeah. And it's that thing of like action creates the momentum, right?
Yep,
Oftentimes we just
exactly.
think
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
why is the momentum coming? Why am I not motivated? But it's like that small action. I think it's
Yeah.
so beautiful how oftentimes the person on the other chair, I don't really understand how much we're on the same wavelength and like the conversation topics are just kind of hitting home. I
Hmm.
identified three things on this cruise. I was like, what are the three things that you just gotta do?
Hmm.
What are things you
I
have to
love it.
do to put
Love it.
yourself out there and to be like, that's it. I also identified this month's goal. One of the goals is do three things every single day to move myself towards those, those actual
Hmm.
achievable
Yep.
goals.
Yep.
And in our culture, there's a saying which basically is in Arabic. It says, in Urdu, it says, harkat mein barkat. So
Okay.
abundance lies in action.
Oh, I love it.
And
Yeah.
so I think oftentimes it's those simple things. And that action, I don't think has to be something so physical. It
Hmm.
could be a lot more belief and mental and
Right.
getting into
Absolutely.
a mindset where you're helping yourself and being generous to yourself over anybody else. Okay,
Right.
what's let's find out this, Sherry. I do want to ask you, how do people get in touch with you?
Sure. So the best place to get in touch with me on social media would be on LinkedIn. It's really the only social media platform that I play on, if you will, a lot. And it's just my name, Sherri Coffelt. You can see it on the screen. The spelling is my handle. And send me an invitation request, send me a message, whatever. Or just email me. My email is Sherri at resultspartner.com. My business is Results Partner. Um, Email me. I love meeting new people. It's one of the things that I do every day. In fact, it's how we met, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
was via LinkedIn. So yeah, so reaching out to people, and LinkedIn is a great place to do that if you're a business owner. There are all kinds of people on LinkedIn for you to meet that can support you in building your business, in building your life, in learning, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, so just reach out.
Hmm. Now, let's go back a little bit and talk about the clients that you work with. I think we've
Hmm.
talked a lot about family, talked about your own personal, personal life. Now, the clients that you work with, you did say are predominantly women.
Hmm.
What are some themes that you see them coming in, into your partnership with?
Hmm.
And then how do we work to reverse that? And the reason I'm saying that is not
Yeah,
only because for clients, for those of you who are still here listening, I'm truly grateful for the time that you're spending here with us. But I do want you to know it's a partnership that you can have with anybody.
absolutely.
And so how do we shift those themes and what are those themes?
Yeah, I mean, so many of the women that I work with, I work with service-based businesses. So most of the businesses, not most, all of the businesses are offering some kind of knowledge base. So whether it's in
Mhm.
coaching or it's a graphic designer or a virtual assistant, those kinds of businesses that support other businesses, and so many of them, when they come to me, they are just plain overwhelmed and tired.
Mm,
because starting up a business is not for the faint of heart. It's a labor of love. It is one of those things where a lot of it is you don't know what you don't know. And you've got all these messages coming at you from all these different places of what you should do. And the fact of the matter is, there are only a few things in business that you actually, I would say, that qualify for shoulds. One of them is get clear on your vision before you start your business, so that you create a business that fits into your lifestyle versus taking over your life. That is a
mm-hmm,
huge a second must do. I'm not going to call it a should do, as a must do, is creating a solid foundation for success. And that's one of the biggest things that I see, that the women that come to me, they start their business and they're told, well, you have to market yourself. You have to get out there and market yourself. But they don't have any clarity on what they really want, so that they're doing
mm-hmm,
marketing in a way that fits their lifestyle they want to live. They don't have any clarity on who they really work with. They're I can help anyone kinds of people. That's a big one. Um,
mm-hmm,
or they just don't know what makes them different. They haven't
mm,
really done the work to figure out what's the problem that you're uniquely qualified to help people solve.
yeah,
And then how do you do that? What's different in your potential client's life when you've helped them get to where they want to be? And that's so huge. So those are definitely some things that you have to do. um, Consistency and overwhelm are the biggest enemies of entrepreneurship. And I
yeah,
believe that inconsistency causes most of the overwhelm. Right, I said that
okay,
wrong. I said consistency and overwhelm. I meant inconsistency and overwhelm. um, Inconsistency, not doing those things consistently that we talked about every day, that move you towards the results you want to create. That stop start, it feeds into everything we've talked about today. Momentum breeds
mm,
momentum. Well, if you're doing stop start, and today you're doing webinars, and tomorrow you're doing 5-day challenges, and the next day you're off doing live speaking, you're never going to get traction in any of them.
yeah,
So just taking a breath to figure out, what do I want? Who do I serve, and how do I serve them? And then, how's the best way for me to connect with them, to attract them to me? Those
mm-hmm,
simple steps, I say they're simple, but they're not easy. Are going
yeah,
to be what makes the difference. And most of the time, the women that I come across, they're stuck on the hamster wheel.
yeah.
And
I can see that. I can feel that. I think for my own life, we do have just about a few more minutes. So I do want to do something, which is a ritual here in Lead with Intentions, and that's called an intentional wrap up. These are rapid fire questions I will be asking you to answer in
okay,
one word or maximum one sentence, and
okay,
let's see how it goes. Okay.
okay, you got it.
What would you want? Yeah. What would you want to leave behind for the world, Sherry?
Peace.
Mm. How will you know you've led an intentional life?
Mm. The legacy of my family.
Hey, if you could create one law that everyone had to follow, what would be that law?
Tell the truth.
Mm. What is the key to a healthy relationship?
Being vulnerable and telling the truth.
Mm. What's one lesson that has made you who you are today?
I can be anything I want to be.
I love that. Well, thank you so very much, Sherry, for your time here
You're
today.
welcome.
This was honestly a very profound and a beautiful conversation. I hope every single one of you that is here still listening and focused on getting yourself just a little bit closer to the life that you want to live intentionally. I think you've benefited from the show today. This show, of course, can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out Spanglish CA, SpanglishWorld.ca for all the news and the programming. As we close today, my prayer is that this show will embark you on a transformative path to be in gratitude, accept the unfoldings of life, and to commit to values and dreams which will allow you to tap into your own greatness as I have tawakkul, which basically means faith in all of us. When we unleash our authenticity, we start to live intentionally. Remember, there's only one of you. Design your life with excellence. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and most importantly, live with it with intentionality to better serve who you are. Thank you so very much, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed being here.